remember different names of angle pairs and where its angles are located, 3 strategies are mentioned. Number 1, you may remember name and its meanings. Number 2, the letter that the angle pairs form. And number 3, mesh up math with the XO mindset, or I usually refer to it as big and small angle. Certain pairs of angles are given specific names based upon their location in relation to the lines. These specific names may be used whether the lines involved are parallel or not parallel, but when you have parallel lines, then the measure of the angles are supplementary for consecutive angles. And when you have parallel lines, the measure of the angles are equal, or we geometry use the word congruent when you have corresponding angles or alternate interior, alternate exterior angles. Again, keep in mind that the name of the angle pairs based on its location may stay the same whether the lines are parallel or not. But when they are parallel, then we have equal or supplementary angles. Let us go ahead and review some of the geometry terms and notations. What you're seeing here is a line segment. So what is a line segment, or another word for it is just segment? It's just a portion of a line. It doesn't go on forever. It's just a short part of a line. When we add arrow to the line segment, we will get a line that go on forever.
You will notice that the arrow is at the end of the line segment. So this is where we know that this line is extending forever in both directions and never stops.
So this is called a line. Remember earlier we call it line segment or just segment. This one is a line that extends forever in both directions. Now we are going to have 2 of these. So let's go ahead and get another one in. When you are given 2 lines like this, we don't know if they will intersect each other or not. Intersect is where it's cutting each other. So we will have to make a geometry notation on the line to mark that they never intersect and they are actually parallel lines. So here are the symbol that we are going to use. We are going to use the black ink this time, and I'm going to put an arrow in, and it could be in this direction or it could be in the opposite direction. We can have 1 arrow or we can have 2 arrows. The number of arrow is going to tell you which line is parallel to which line. Let's go ahead and put in another one. So if you have a 2 arrow on the second one, then you know that it's not going to be parallel to the first one with just 1 arrow. Now notice the black arrow that signify parallel lines is not at the end of the line. It has to be inside on the line itself, but not at the end. And if I want to say that the bottom line is parallel to the top line, I gotta have the same number of arrows. And again, the arrow cannot be at the end, otherwise it will be confused with the line that extends at the end. In writing your parallel lines outside, you might see that we use the dash that look like that. On the figures, on the line itself, you might have to use the arrow, because if you don't use the arrow, you might get it confused with a tick mark, which means congruent lines, like this one. I'm going to use the red to mark with the, let's say if we use this red line, this dash right here, then this will say that this line is congruent to the line on the bottom, with the same number of tick mark telling you which line is congruent to which line. That's why in parallel line, in writing, we can use the 2 dash like that in writing in your notes. But on the drawing, on the figure itself, you cannot use the dash because it can be confused with the congruent sign. Only the arrow. So these are the 2 notation for parallel lines. Now when we have 2 lines, we are going to have the interior and the exteriors. So interiors is the part that is inside of the 2 lines. So this is where we call interiors. And then for the exteriors, we are going to have this as the exterior. You can see it's on the outside of the 2 blue line there. So exteriors is on the outside, interior or inside. The three vocabulary words I want to go over today, and I'd like for you to repeat after me. The first one is transversal line. Say transversal. Very good. The next word is alternate interior angles. Say alternate interior. Good. The last word I want to go over today is corresponding angles. Say corresponding. Good job. Distinguish the different angle pairs in the angles formed by transversal. So the transversal line is the first one on the left. We are going to have any two lines, like the green line there. And when you have a third line that crosses it, we call that third line, the cross line, that called transversal line. Demonstrating the transversal line, anytime we have two lines, it could be parallel or not parallel, but we have a third line, then it becomes, this line is called a transversal line. It could go like this or in any direction. So the transversal line is signified by the black line. Any line that crosses two lines, we call that line the transversal lines. The next word I want you to learn is corresponding angles. And you will see that I moved the blue star right down there to the angles for corresponding angles. Now we have more than one pair of corresponding angles. The first pair is demonstrated by the star. The second one I'm going to illustrate it with a red X. Okay, another pair of corresponding angles. Corresponding angles with just that dashed line. And remember, if we move it down, it's going to be in the same position on top of the green line on the bottom. So that's also called corresponding with the red line, dashed line on the angles. Now here's another pair of corresponding angle. I'm going to mark it with the arc this time. You see that one and this one. These are two corresponding angles because remember, we moved it down or we moved the green line on the bottom with the angles up. It's going to be in the same positions. It's another pair of corresponding angles. There we go. So all of those are all corresponding angles pairs. If you follow along with the yellow pen, we are drawing the angles. So this is the corresponding angle and here's another corresponding angle. You see we are forming the letter F in the alphabet. The alternate interior angles, our last word today. If you can, please say alternate interior angles. Alternate mean is on different side of the transversal. So one is on the right side, one is on the left side of the transversal black line. The word interior mean is on the inside of the two green line or parallel lines if we have the parallel symbol. Those are alternate interior angles. We also have another pair of alternate interior angles and I'm going to use red star this time to show you. So these are also the inside, and if we are going to have it on different side of the transversal line, we also have alternate interior angles. If you follow with the yellow highlighter I have here, we are going to have this one. This is the angle and here's the other angles. So if you follow with that yellow pen, you see it's going to form a letter Z in the alphabet. We can use the letter Z patterns to remember alternate interior angles. Three words we're learning here: transversal line, corresponding angles, alternate interior angles.